With me, and we letting everybody know who got a dream. Yo, stay focused. Keep moving forward. It's on the way. Keep that dream alive. If you got a dream, don't look to the left, nor the right. Let's go.
Your faith is in Jesus. Completion is here before you even begin. Dreaming big of my life in the future. Already knowing that it's not far. Having the passion to work towards Jesus. I'm gonna keep my faith and swagger going hard. Don't trust life. Just push straight. You don't have to fear more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show. I am your host, Yolanda, and tonight I'm so excited about our very special guest because we're going to be talking about relationships and knowing your worth. So look, I'm going to ask you to please share this broadcast, tag a family member, tag a friend, tag your uncle, tag your cousin, whoever you feel will benefit from talking about relationships and knowing your worth. So again, share this broadcast. I'm going to show you this promo and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show, where you will hear stories from people who have experienced hell on earth and have walked past hell to share their stories. You will also hear what they are doing now and how their businesses, nonprofits, and ministries were birthed from their past trauma. So let's empower the world, one story at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Yolanda Jerry.
Welcome back. Again, you're tuning into the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show, and I am excited about our special guest tonight. I want to give a shout out to Paula Shea Queen Favre. Thanks for tuning in. Kimberly Joseph, thank you for being here. Babs Young, Mr. Lee Wright. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Bring on some more people onto this show because we're going to be talking about some good stuff tonight. We're about to have a real conversation. So get ready, get your notepad. Let's get ready to take some notes because we all could use some information about relationships and knowing your worth. So without further ado, I am going to tell you who my special guest is for tonight. Tonight we have Mr. Aaron T. Jordan Jr., known to many as Mr. Know Your Worth. He is an American award-winning author, radio personality, speaker, relationship coach, and philanthropist. He is the founder and host of the show, Know Your Worth Radio Show. He's authored the books entitled The Power Within, A Woman's Worth from Both Sexes, which was published in July 2014, and also the dating devotional, 30-Day Guide to Revamp Your Thoughts on Dating, which is on schedule to be released in spring of 2022. He is also the founder and CEO, again, of Know Your Worth, an entity built to empower the minds of both men and women on various levels to help them understand who they are, whose they are, and what they are when it comes to relationships, dating, self-worth, and personal development. In a stance of this mission, he is the executive producer, visionary, and mastermind of the inception of 2 annual regional conferences, which he launched in 2015. The Know Your Worth Women's Relationship Conference, which is held in Nashville, Tennessee, and Know Your Worth Relationship Empowerment Summit, which is held in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, look, I know I read a lot, but I'm going to give you a little bit more. Mr. Jordan has been featured in a multitude of media outlets and various TV appearances, ranging from CBS News, ABC News, News 5, Talk of the Town, Atlanta Live, and My TV 30, just to name a few. In 2015, he was rated as one of the top online relationship coaches to follow by Divine Magazine. Everything thus far that has taken place has led Mr. Jordan to be recognized for various prestigious awards. 2014 nomination for the Best in Black Award for Best Author of the Year, 2016 Indie Authors Legacy Award, Author of the Year, Personal Development winner, 2017 Nashville Black 40 Under 40 Award winner, Nashville Business Journal Class of 2020 40 Under 40 nominee, Nashville Business Journal Class of 2240 Under 40 nominee, and Making Headline News 2020 Man of the Year Award recipient, just to name a few. Now, look, that ain't a whole bunch to read about this Mr. Know Your Worth. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on to this screen so you all can see who this relationship and know your worth person is. So, without further ado, welcome, Mr. Aaron. How you doing?
I am wonderful, and I appreciate you for the invite. I appreciate your staff. Everybody was amazing. Just appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here because I mean, just the title alone, I know everybody deal with relationships, right?
Oh
Everybody
yeah.
deal with relationships. Everybody, some people don't know their worth, some people do, So we're gonna
Mhm.
talk to everybody tonight. That's
Oh
what we're
yeah.
gonna do. But before we get into the show tonight, I always start my show off with, I done read your professional bio, but like tell us like where you from, what it was like growing up in your childhood and anything else you want us to know that we may not know or have read from your bio.
Oh, so once again, I appreciate you for having me on. And then also, did I notice a little New Orleans in there a little bit? I just want to go on record saying that.
Yes, you did. I'm from the dirty South. That's what they call it, straight out of New Orleans, Louisiana. That's it, the Big Easy.
The Big Easy. But no, but I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. Um, Memphis, Tennessee, that's where the grit and the grind is at. And so moved to the Middle Tennessee area about 30 minutes outside of Nashville here in 2012. So just like everyone, I have a story, and I use my story to impact the lives of people, using that to empower people. So over the years, I've told people, I say, your story is not meant for you; it's meant to enrich and empower others, whether that's a story of overcoming or a story of triumph or a story of just breaking through those barriers of life. Your story is powerful. The
Mhm.
thing is that people are going through the same thing that you've went through. So
That's
if
right.
you have an opportunity to share your story, to show people how to break out those barriers, I think your story is using as a powerful thing. So that's what I've done over the years, is just use my story to enrich others.
Amazing. And I always tell people, I say, everything that we go through is not for us to keep, it's to help somebody else overcome, just as we learned how to overcome as well. So, um, thank you so much for being here as my guest. So, before we get into the main topic tonight, I know it's something that done happened to Mr. Aaron, to get him to where he is today. And my show is about having real conversations and
Hmm.
also the trauma that people have gone through and how they triumphed and how they overcame the things that they have gone through. So what's your story?
So my story, and I love to talk about. I love to use it as an example, especially in this dating and relationship space. Um, but my story: 3 rings, 3 engagements. I mean, about 15, 16 years ago, I was in a very dark space. Very dark space mentally. I was in a dark space emotionally. I was battling depression. I was just going through those emotional woes of life, but also looking at the fact of I needed the validation of love. I needed the authentic, not the authenticity, but the effects of feeling loved. And I want to tell people like me, if you don't, if you don't understand what that word love means, or I love you, or the words I love you, it's some very deep rooted things in that phrase. And so 3 rings, 3 engagements. Before I got married, to my wife. We just recently celebrated 9 years of marriage. So big shouts out,
Congratulations.
big shouts out to my wife for putting up with me for this long.
Amen.
But no, but before getting to that point, I had to go through some things. I had to go through some things mentally to get to a point where I can appreciate um, the space of a woman. So about 15, 16 years ago, I was in a space. I use this analogy. It's called three rings, three engagement. I was actually engaged three times to three different women in an 18 to 24-month period. And I say that, I don't say that loosely, but I want to say that so people can understand where my mental psyche was. As I stated before, I needed the validation of love. I needed to feel it. I needed that validation of just saying like, okay, well, hey, you're amazing. Someone else telling me that I'm amazing. Someone else telling me or giving me that feeling of love, and without me giving my own self that feeling, you know. And so a lot of people don't understand that, going through this space of relationships and dating and going through the dating processes, if you have not done the work on yourself, you have not done the homework on self, you're setting your relationships up. You're setting your whole dating process up to fail.
Wow. Now you said three engagements, right? Three
Three rings,
relationships
three rings, three engagement. That's what I call it.
in a 18 to what?
24-month time frame.
18 to 24-month time frame. So I want to dig a little deep into that
Let's
real.
go. Let's go deep.
So in your mind, because I heard you say that, you wanted to feel that love, you wanted to feel that value, what is it that you were dealing with that led you to not even be to break off from those relationships? Was there any other things that caused you to leave or break away from those relationships? And then what pushed you into another one immediately right away?
So in those relationships, I was perfect. It was in my mind, it was nothing wrong with me. But the thing is that when you have that I call it the come to Jesus moment, or that self reflecting moment. All of my relationships before I got married ended the exact same way. The only difference was it was with a different woman. So when everything happens the same, there's only one common denominator, right? Which is you. So I projected my pain, I projected my hurt onto those women. But every time I point a finger at them, it's three pointing back at me. And so, instead of me sitting in that pain, sitting in that hurt, sitting in my trauma, I began to adopt this ideology that most of us do adopt, is using other people to get over our hurt or getting over another person. But when you think about it and you're using other people to get over your hurt, what are you doing? It's like you're going through an airport, going to the baggage carousel. You have an empty bag, you're walking, you're carrying that bag, but then all of a sudden you go to a gift store or a gift shop and you buy another bag, and you still have this bag that's filled. This one's empty. Now you're putting that bag inside that bag. You're now carrying around that same baggage. So I was carrying around emotions from my childhood. I was carrying around emotions from my past, my letdowns, and all those relationships without actually sitting there at the table and dealing with that hurt.
Wow. So in those relationships, is it safe to say that it was all about Aaron and really not worrying about the person you were
Oh
with?
yeah, Aaron was perfect during that time.
So it's basically like everything that you were doing, everything you were saying, I was not the problem. It was the person you were in a relationship's problem.
Exactly. So the thing is, especially coming from with us men, especially in our culture, we're taught not to show our emotions. We're taught not to show our pain or cry. We're taught to be strong and things like that. But in the whole grand scheme of things, it was like an inward explosion, you
Mhm.
know. And so instead of me talking about it and dealing with it, I was projecting it onto the next person. And so one of the ways that we as men we deal with our pain and we deal with our trauma is we deal with it through intimacy
Mm.
to as well. That's how we transfuse our pain, because sometimes we don't talk about it. We get that quick release, but then next thing you know, we're transfusing our pain to that woman, and then which is causing more emotions on top of emotions on top of emotions.
Wow. So basically, because it was all about me, you were basically, I wouldn't say looking for love in the wrong places, but you were looking for people to love you in the right space, but you
Mhm.
weren't quite there because you hadn't dealt with your own, I would say, inner child, the things that you had really had dealt with when it came to your childhood or whether it came from, your surroundings or other people around you.
Yeah, and the
Wow.
thing is, people they have to understand you have to deal with all of your hurt. You know, not just your relationship hurt or your dating hurt, but some of those traumas that happen or abandonment when you was a child dealing with your parents or whatever. You have to deal with that because it can show up and show its face in your dating processes, in your relation, or how you deal with people.
Right, absolutely. So knowing that you ended up going into those relationships and ended up leaving those relationships, not only did you hurt those people, but you were also hiding your pain. So I want to get into that a little bit about just that pain that you had to deal. You really had to start confronting, like, what are some of those things that you really had to come to terms with and say, you know what, I'm messed up inside. I really need to check myself before I wreck another relationship or before I want to move forward into another relationship. So before you answer that, I want to go to a commercial break and then we'll come back and get into that a little more.
Okay, awesome.
All right. That is none other than Believe Your Dreams TV network by owner and founder Dr. Nicole Peters. If you're looking to expand your show or expand your network to a greater platform, Believe in Your Dreams TV is one of those places that I would recommend to go. They're on smart TV, Roku, Google. I mean, you name it. They have various different areas where they stream to. So again, Believe in Your Dreams TV network. Their website is www.believeinyourdreamstv.com. Again, that is www.believeinyourdreamstv.com. All right, Mr. Aaron. So let's get into what is that stuff that you had to deal with.
So yeah, so it was. I had to come to grips with the fact that I was broken. So the thing is that it's very hard for us to really admit and tell ourselves or talk to ourselves about what is really going on with us. Back then, I didn't have any doctors or anything like that I could go to and deal with. But it wasn't to the point where everything started to bubble up and almost committed suicide twice. And so that was a turning point in my life because I tried to I tried to end my calling before I actually fulfilled my calling. That makes sense. And thing is that when you're called and you have a purpose on your life, there's certain things that you can't do, there's certain ways you can't move or operate. And so in that space, God told me, He said, "Hey," I said, "this is not the end result for you. You know, I have a calling on your life. There's things that I want you to do and fulfill in your life, but you have to go through something." And I was going through something. I was going through those self doubt moments. I was going through those self pity moments. I was going through um, those moments where I felt very low about myself. If anyone on here that's listening to this broadcast, anytime that you get to a point where you're feeling uh, very low about yourself, to a point where anybody can come to you and say, "Man, you're doing an awesome job. You're great," but you're sitting here like, okay, whatever. And it's like nothing anybody can say or nothing anybody can do can make you change that. So it's one of those moments where, like in the relationship space, it got to me a little bit because if all of my relationships are ending the exact same way, what's wrong with me? And so I had to come to grips with that, and so it put me in a very somber state, a state of depression, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And so when I did the work on myself, I sat with myself for, I think it was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and I really had to sit at the table of my hurt. It wasn't where I had to run to someone else and say, "Okay, well, I need to have this temporary fix. I had to run to someone else and say, okay, well, how can I fix it? Let me sit in this and deal with it. That's a lot. That's what a lot of us are afraid to do, is to sit in our hurt.
Right. And so that's very true. A lot of us are afraid to sit in our hurt because you just don't know depression is real, and by this being Mental Health Awareness Month, a lot of people are dealing with hurt. They're
Mhm.
dealing with pain. They don't want to deal with the stuff that's been holding them bondage,
Mhm.
and so for you, um, I heard you mention something earlier about abandonment. Is that something that you dealt with too as well?
Yeah, always. I think early on, when you think about abandonment and rejection, you know, I'll just take it a step farther back in your teen years when you're not getting picked for that pickup game, or you're doing everything that you're doing to be out front in your class or to your peers, and you're constantly getting looked over. Psychologically, that triggers subconscious. A lot of people don't understand that those small instances can really have a major impact on your life, and you can carry that unknowingly into a new relationship, or into a relationship that you're trying to build with a person. And
Mhm.
that's where that whole projection of issues come into play. You're projecting your pain or issues onto a situation when it's not even there.
Right. Wow. Or trying to run away from it
Come
before
on
it
now.
comes to you, right?
Yeah.
We'll try to run and bow out before we even run into that wall where we know it's like, oh, you know what? I sense this person is going to try to reject me. So let me go ahead and reject them and bow out right now
Exactly.
before they do it to me.
Exactly.
Wow. Something else. It's amazing how we can sit there and just hold on to things, and like you said, the projection stuff is real, and
Exactly.
a lot of people don't realize that, and we project because we don't want to continue to be hurt. So that's a way of us putting this wall up and putting these
Exactly.
blinders on so we don't deal with what's really truly wrong with us.
Exactly.
So
We end up sabotaging our own happiness.
absolutely, absolutely. So besides the, dealing with the childhood and, the depression, what is one of those things that pretty much took you down to your knees when it came to depression? Like, what is that one thing that you was like, I really have to deal with this
Mhm.
because this is really taking a hold of me?
So I think it was a second attempt of suicide. At that time, I've had my daughter. I think she was not even 1 years old. I think she was almost one, and I was ready to end it all then. But thinking about that, you know, in the whole grand scheme of things, I thought of my daughter saved me, because I'm thinking like, okay, well, now I have this life that's here, that's looking up to me and looking for me to be that role model, be that example, be that that example for her. So if I leave, or if I end my life, who will be there to give her those teachings, the worldly knowledge or spiritual knowledge or what have you? And so that was one of the things I really had to come to grips with my daughter, and being there for my daughter at that time.
Now, how old is your daughter? How many
She'll
children?
be 17 this year. Lord Jesus, that's a whole nother conversation within itself. Teenagers,
Right.
man.
Absolutely. So speaking of about children, knowing that you attempted, contemplated suicide several times, um, and your daughter was your saving grace, right? When it comes to, what, it's not about me, it's about my children.
Hmm.
Have you had this? So these are conversations that sometimes parents don't even share with their children,
Hmm.
or they don't want their children to know because they feel like, again, there might be a projection piece,
Hmm.
that you be projecting on them, and they might end up taking that and saying, you know what, my daddy had these kind of thoughts, so it's okay for me to have these kind of thoughts. Have you had the conversation with your children at a younger age, or did you wait until they got older to talk about the things that you have gone through?
Well, so it got to a point where I began to become an open book. So, and with children, especially going into those teen years, they start to go through that whole identity phase. So I had that conversation as she was going into her teen years. I told her my story, my background, and how I got to some of the through some of the situations that I've gotten through, because she started to have some of those same thoughts and feelings, and self doubt moments, depression moments too as well. So I think with me being able to come to her and talk to her about, okay, well, Daddy went through the same thing. This is how I got through it. Even though I understand it's a different time and it's a different generation, the groundwork and the underplay is still the same.
Right, right. Well, that's good. I mean, because again, we use our experiences to be able to, aid in the nurturing, to aid and nurture our children, and let them know, hey, I've experienced these things, but this is how I came through. This is how I overcame, and these are some tools that you may be able to use as well, to help you with what you're going through. Because we would never want our children to really go through what we go through, but the truth of the matter is they just may, whether it's early on in life or whether it's later on in life.
Exactly.
So, what are some of the things that you had to do? Because now you say you had, I remember early in the conversation you were saying you had to do the work.
Hmm.
So, for anybody that's tuning in and listening right now, thank you so much for tuning in. We're talking with Mr. Aaron Jordan about relationships and knowing your worth, and he's sharing his story about the things that he had to deal with to even it got to the point to where he even contemplated suicide.
Hmm.
And he's been in 3 relationships and bowed out of 3 relationships. So, share this broadcast as we are sitting here speaking with our special guest on this evening. So, what is that work? What did you really have to do? Because you have some people who may be watching right now that are in that headspace, jumping in and out of relationships, you know, because of one, fear of being by themselves, or two, not have dealt with their hurt and their pain and really not knowing what self love is.
Hmm.
Because my thing is this, and even I have been in that headspace before where it's just like, we're just trying to look for somebody to love us, but really hadn't really dealt with all of the other stuff, all the other baggage.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you had to put in place to get you to, start healing?
So one of the things is I had to sit in that lonely season. A lot of people are afraid of that lonely season because of what you may find out about yourself. But I had to sit in that, and I really had to. And with your audience here, I don't want to infringe on anyone's religion, but I had to sit in that moment and really have a conversation with God and say, okay, what is your plan? What is your purpose for me? Because right now I'm not feeling it, or I don't see it. And so, when you get to your lowest point in life, that's when God speaks to you. That's when that word comes to you. So I had to sit in that lonely season. I sat in that season for probably about a year, 2 years, and I had to really, really just sit in it and face it and deal with it and not run from it. Not being the prodigal son and running from your hurt, running from the pain, and then actually confronting the people I hurt. Going back to that point of actually confronting the ones and showing accountability, showing that, okay, well, I'm a different person, but I'm in a different space, and I just want, this is a part of my healing too as well. And the thing about it is, if you actually do that particular type of work and actually face it, the the outcome, the end result is just that so much greater. I love telling this story too. My wife, she's probably listening to me right now, but in the midst of that, me and my wife, we actually knew each other in high school. We actually tried to date after high school. I messed up, of course. I was young, but we went through a period of 7 to almost 8 years with no communication. So during that time, I went through life. I went through my trauma. I went through my dark moments and everything. I went through my healing phase, a lonely season, a healing phase again. But then after that last time around, um, I was over the course of 7 years, 8 years. I was actually sending messages to her through Facebook, just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And it was one of my healing moments too, as well, with her. And so for 7 years, I was just, "Hey, how you doing? I just want to let you know I apologize. Hey, how you doing? Just checking in with you." 7 years straight. So once I really got to the point of having my mind clear, out the blue, 7 years later, 8 years later, she sent me a message on Facebook, said, "Hey, you can call me, right?" And so hold on. So I'm sitting here like, hold on now. Is my computer or is my Facebook been hacked or something? And so I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, well, now I'm in a better headspace to respond and say, "Hey, I called you. I called the number." Next thing you know, I was on a Greyhound at that time from Memphis to Nashville to see her, and we've been inseparable ever since. So it's when you get to the point of really doing the work, and you attract you attract different things into your life.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned, that you had to sit alone in that, and have a conversation with God, because people don't understand that alone time with no distractions is so important, because it
Mhm.
allows you to focus, it allows you to think clearly without having all this other outside chatter. And so, and you said you did that for about a year.
I did that for
Sometimes,
like a year, 2 years, yeah.
yeah, sometimes that's hard for people, especially if they're used to being in relationships or they've been in and out of relationships and they don't know how to, sit still,
Yeah.
So, what would you say to that person to tell them, what, I know you want to talk to X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
I know they in your DMs. I know they in your inbox. I know they emailing you and they messaging you and you want to respond. But sometimes setting them boundaries and not responding is important so that way you can sit in your own stuff
Hmm.
and have that alone time with God or whoever it is that you have that long time with.
Most definitely.
What would you say to that person?
So I tell them, I said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So the thing is, if you're serious about your development, if you're serious about your relationship life or dating life or your dating processes, you'll change up how you approach it. So if you know that, okay, well, if you asking yourself the question saying like, okay, why am I attracting the same type of person into my life? Or why am I dealing with the same type of behaviors in my dating life? So instead of questioning or questioning them or questioning the situations, take a step back and observe the why. You know, why am I acting? Why am I attracting this into my life? Okay, have you dealt with hurt? Have you dealt with the breakups? Have you dealt with the triggers that may come with that? If you have not dealt with that, subconsciously, it's like you have this subconscious damage sign over your head that say, "Hey, I'm still damaged, even though I'm giving you a smile, even though I'm out here in the world smiling, going to meetings, shaking hands, and kissing babies, I'm still damaged." So the
Mm,
thing that you're going to attract into your life is a person that's way more damaged than you. They're going to come into your life and they're going to add more damage to your life. They're going to, and now you're dealing with that damage emotion and those are damaged emotions, and you're not really giving yourself time to really release or deal with the fact of, okay, I need help, you know,
right.
and taking ownership of that hurt. One of the things we have to deal with is our life's greatest project, which is ourselves. Get to
Mhm.
the core root of that, everything else will follow.
I agree. And by you talking about, here it is, I'm damaged, and then here it is, you attracting you know, more damage, because that's what I call it. You're attracting the person that's damaged, but you add more damage onto yourself, right? And what people don't understand when it comes to two damaged people coming together, that's trauma bonding.
Come on now.
That is true trauma bonding. You're bonding based off of each other's trauma
Mhm.
and not realizing you're just creating more trauma for yourself.
Exactly.
And so it's good that you say, you got to do the work. You have to, you know, be by yourself.
Mhm.
It's okay to be by yourself, because you learn a lot. Like you said, you learn a lot more about yourself and the things that you have to deal with.
Mhm.
And you realize, man, I done messed that up. I done messed that up and I done messed it up. But that's when you learn, like you said, the accountability piece,
Yeah.
taking accountability for what you have done to people, but taking accountability of saying, you know what, I really need to deal with my
Exactly.
past hurt, my past pain,
Yeah.
and it that says a lot about you as a man, because you won't really hear a lot of men
Mhm.
talk about how they were the problem, right?
Exactly.
They would always, and same thing with women. Some women won't say that they were the problem. Usually you'll hear them projecting and saying the other person was the problem,
Exactly.
and
But
so
really deep down inside, they're actually talking about themselves. You
absolutely.
know. You know. So like amongst your girlfriends and your homeboys and stuff like that, we'll have that conversation. But publicly saying like, okay, well, hey, I was messed up. I was
Right.
broken. You know. Uh, I just I just went through this phase in my life that I just wanted to be promiscuous and release my pain and project my pain onto others. A lot of people want to admit that or come to grips with that type of emotional release.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I know you talked about your wife, right?
Hmm.
And you said that, we know just by hearing the conversation, you wouldn't have been ready for her back then
Hmm.
anyway, and you probably would have. She wasn't one of the ones that you hurt, right?
Oh no.
Okay, so
Well, when I was young, I messed up. I was 18.
okay,
We're just gonna leave it at that. I was just 18.
I got you. But even still, and even though you said, okay, well, that's when you were 18,
That still travels with you though.
it does still travel with you, right? So it all kind of calculates up. But here it is, years later, she reaches out to you, and all this time, who knew this
Exactly.
woman has been following your journey? Otherwise, she would have never came to you and say, "Hey, you can."
Exactly. Well, I don't know if she's been following my journey. I'm just saying it because she probably listening to me right now.
Uh-oh.
But no, but it's just crazy how that manifested though, because a person you can send if you're sending a person a messages for years with no response,
Mm,
at some point you're going to stop.
right.
But I just kept on going. So the persistence was there, but as soon as that one little door cracked open, it was like, here I am.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go into another commercial break, and we'll talk about now that you've gone through this healing journey and you find yourself in a place of, now you have your wife and now you all are together. How has, going through everything you've gone through affected your current relationship? Is
Hmm.
there some things that you still had to work through even with her now
Hmm.
that you're in a relationship as well? So we'll talk about that as soon as we come back from the next commercial break.
Okay.
And that was none other than Go Fig Company. And as you can see, Go is spelled Geaux. So you already know where that Go comes from. But that is Go Fig Company. If you're looking to automate your systems, looking to have a website built, looking for someone to do the back end of your conferences virtually, you're looking for all kinds of other things, flyers, you name it. I highly recommend Go Fig Company. And why? Because they do a lot of my work too. And they do a lot of excellent work and they have a great team. So reach out to them, www.gofig.com. Again, that is www.geauxfig.com. All right, Mr. Jordan. So let's talk about you and your wonderful wife.
Okay.
How did that? So you both reconnected,
Hmm.
and so um, how did it? How did the conversation go when it came to where you are when it comes to, okay, I know I got some baggage that I've dealt with.
Hmm.
I've healed some through my healing journey, but I know there's still some stuff that you probably, if you're faced with certain things again, because there's always sometimes when we in a relationship, there might be uh,
A
something that'll
trigger.
trigger us,
Hmm.
right? And so, how did you maneuver that in your current relationship with your wife? Because I'm sure that probably has come up. I mean, it's come up in my relationship too
Hmm.
as well. So, how did you maneuver that and work through that?
So one thing is that I didn't. I don't think that until I was actually fully mentally prepared to receive her gift or understand the type of woman she was. I don't think that reconnection would have happened if I wasn't mentally prepared. That's
Mhm.
why I want to get people to understand is that when you get to a space where you're tired of being sick and tired of dealing with the same thing, your mind shifts, your thought process shifts. And so when that happened, I was all in, just like that. As far now, it was still some things I had to deal with within myself, or man ego issue things. Of course, that's natural. We deal with that. But as far as from a perspective of like me knowing that, like, okay, this is who I'm supposed to be with. They say in life you only come across your God's gift one or two times in a lifetime, and so at that moment when we reconnect, I knew that was my God's gift, and so whatever we was going through, whatever we dealt with, we was going to get through it, and so it's just one of those things of understanding and knowing what the calling is and what the assignment is, and operating fully in that.
Good stuff. So look, we talking about relationships and knowing your worth with Mr. Aaron Jordan Jr. He has shared his heart, he shared his story, and we're talking about, him and his wonderful wife as well. And we're going to continue to have this conversation. So if you're just now tuning in, please share this broadcast out, invite someone in as we continue to talk about relationships and knowing your worth. So Aaron,
Hmm.
the topic relationships and knowing your worth, when it comes to relationships, you know some people don't even know what that looks like, because I have conversations even with my fiance, right?
Hmm.
And we talk about a lot of things, right? And what we find is people have trouble with dating,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
So, and what I mean by dating means we're gonna go out to eat and we're gonna both go back to our own homes. We're gonna go back to our own place.
And
People
having kids
people
within
aren't
no
dating
time.
with a purpose, right? They're
Yeah.
not dating with a purpose. And so they're basically dating and it's just like boom, we're in a relationship, or one person assumes they're in a relationship and the other person just like we just friends. So let's talk about that dating piece.
So I think with the dating piece, you have to be very intentional. I tell people if you're not serious about your dating life or finding love, then you don't have to listen to anything I say. But if you're serious about it, then you need to move with intentionality. That whole intention piece is very critical because you get to a point where you understand and know what you will and will not tolerate. You put out your requirements there, and it's not a moment of you wasting your time.
Hmm.
Time is our most valuable asset. And
Right.
not saying that it's wasting your time; it's a teaching moment, but your time is your most valuable asset. So if you're in a space where you're intentional about who you have in your space, then you become very serious about that whole dating piece and who you allow to share that space. Then you'll know whether or not, okay, well, this is someone I can occasionally go out with just to go watch a game, go get a drink or something like that. But if it's to a point where I actually see myself with that person, or if it's to a point where I actually see myself progressing with this person, then you move a little bit different, especially with men too as well. And of course, we get comfortable and content after we've succeeded. But the thing is that in order to keep it going, the work has got to keep going. You have to keep doing those small things that you used to do to get her, to put a smile on her face, and things like that, and vice versa.
I agree with that. Intentionality is very important.
Hmm.
Some people, when they're dating, they're just going with the flow.
Yep.
And then, again, they're not talking about are we dating because we want to really be in a committed relationship, or what are we doing? They don't have those conversations. What are your goals? What are the things you aspire to do? What is it that you want out of a relationship? What are deal breakers? What would be something that you couldn't really deal with,
Hmm.
and people don't talk about that. And then once you go into that committed relationship, it's just like, okay, I need to start uncovering some things,
Hmm.
and people don't like to uncover those things.
And,
And so,
that, and by the time,
go ahead,
I'm sorry, let me cut y'all.
go ahead.
No, by the time and when they start to uncover, they're like 8 months to a year in, and their titles and labels. Next thing you know, you're like, okay, well, I didn't know you had this bad habit, or I didn't know you did this and things. So now it's to a point where because you didn't ask those questions up front, you didn't dig deep up front. Now you're, like I said, 8 months, a year, 2 years in down the line, and now you're in love, and
Hmm.
now you're finally figuring out like, okay, those are some things. If we wasn't talking before, if I wasn't in love with you, I would not tolerate that. So now you find yourself in a compromising position.
Compromising position,
Yep.
absolutely. That's so very true, because now it's like, okay, I'm here, I've been with this person for 8 9 months, and it's like, if I leave this relationship, that's 8 or 9 months I done wasted
Man,
my life But it would have just been best if I would have asked these important questions in the very beginning. In the very beginning. So
We
I
get caught up in those feel good moments, and because I haven't been with someone, been in a relationship, or been out to the movies with someone in a year, 2 years, because we get caught up in those moments. Now we in those situations or those trigger moments of our past,
agree.
what young people call, you're in those entanglements or situations.
Right, absolutely. Right. You got some people over here, well, he didn't want to hear what I say, or she don't want to hear what I say, or don't want to deal with it. So let me go over here and talk to this person. And they think it's pure innocent, but the other person thinking, oh, well, here's my chance to go ahead and get on in.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So I do agree. Now, when it comes to, you know, knowing your worth, because sometimes people, when they're in relationships, they really don't know, really know their worth. I guess, and I say that because when you think about it, could be from growing up or their childhood, they were used to people saying things to them about you're not going to be nothing, you're not going to be worth anything, nobody's going to love you, or they might have come from a different relationship where it was abusive or those type things. So how would you help a person when it comes to them learning how to know their worth, and taking that worth and saying, hey, I'm worth this, this is what I'm worth when it comes to you being in a relationship with me.
So I think one of the things is in relationships is we tend to forget we that before we got into a relationship we was an individual first.
Hmm.
Sometimes we get in a relationship, we get so consumed with that relationship, we tend to forget about ourselves and our needs. So getting back to that whole individual piece of, okay, what makes me happy? Understanding the fact of, getting back to the root of making love to yourself first, appreciating yourself, getting back to the point of saying, okay, if they don't buy me flowers, or if they don't take me, I can take myself out and I feel just as fine. So
Hmm.
getting back to that piece, and operating from a standpoint of, I don't need someone to make me feel whole.
Right.
Getting back to that piece, and once you understand that concept of saying that, okay, well, looking at yourself in the mirror, standing there in your vulnerable self, saying that you're powerful, you're wonderful,
Hmm.
you're great. Speaking to that inner person of yourself,
Hmm.
not needing someone else to give you that affirmation. Give your own self those affirmations.
I agree. It's just like that song Mary J. Blige came out with.
Oh yeah,
Hello,
you
God.
know, hello, beautiful, or something like that.
Yeah. That, to be honest with you, that's just such a powerful song, because a lot of people deal with self-image, or they deal with lack of self-confidence,
Hmm.
because they feel like that should come from somebody else. They feel like the woman or the man should tell them that they're beautiful. They feel like a man or woman should tell them, that you the best thing out here since a slice of bread. They feel like that should come from somebody else, when in truth we should be saying, yeah, I know I'm bad, I know
Exactly.
I'm good, I know who I am and whose I belong to, those kind of things. Those are the things that we should be saying to ourselves, because at the
Exactly.
end of the day, when people, and the thing about it is, we attract, what we project. And like you said earlier,
Oh,
we
now we can pass that
attract.
collection plate around on that one.
So it's like, if I'm walking around saying I'm confident, then you know what? I want to walk around and have somebody next to me,
Mhm.
linked up to me, that's just as confident in who they are as well. You know what I
The
mean?
thing, and the thing is that when you're projecting that confidence from yourself, the person that you attract into your life, they only expound on that confidence.
That's it.
That's it. Even though you're feeling that, the compliments that they give you, it only makes you feel that much greater about yourself. Not saying that, okay, I needed that compliment from that person, but it's the fact that you're in a position where you're attracting this person into your life. Now the words that they're saying, they make you feel just that much greater.
That's right. All they doing is add. No, I always say, look, I'm happy, but guess what? That man right there, he add on to it. It's like putting the icing on the cake. Like, I know I'm all that, but then, man, he make me feel like I'm everything to the world.
I know, right?
So, having that confidence in yourself is very important, and speaking life over yourself. I always say, There is life and death in the power of the tongue. You are what you sit there and say you are. So if you say I don't, I'm fat, then guess what? That's what you are. If you say that I'm ugly, then that's what you are. That's what you're saying to yourself. You're projecting that on yourself. If you go out there and you say, you know what? I'm beautiful. I'm a queen. I'm walking and I'm talking and I know I'm all that. Then ain't nothing wrong with that. Because some people might say that that's you being cocky. No, that's just me loving myself, and that's just how I see it. So
When people say that that's cocky or anything, that's them in projecting their low self esteem on you. Well,
right.
how can you get mad at me for feeling good about myself?
That's
How can
right.
you get mad at me for having the confidence to speak life and speak power to within myself? You
That's
know,
right. Right. They're projecting their insecurities onto you. That's what
exactly.
they're doing. So I want to say thank you so much. This has been good. I want to talk about, now let's talk about what you have going on. And then I also want you to close out the show. We got a little less than 10 minutes left to close out the show with
Mhm.
some encouraging words with someone who might be, lacking that self-confidence, or someone who might be struggling with, trying to go into a relationship or not dealing with their hurt.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that piece for a second. What is the stuff that you have going on? Somebody wanted to connect with you, just let us all have it.
Oh man. Well, you can actually connect with me. You can go to my website, aaronjordanjr.com. That's AARONJORDANJR.com. And then you also can connect with me on social media. Instagram is really where I mostly spend a lot of my time. And that's the handle is at Mr. Know Your Worth underscore through all the words too as well. Then also Google is an awesome place to, I told my mom one time, I said, she said, "Baby, can you send me your website so I can send it to my friend girl in Chicago? Because you just doing some great things." I said, "Well, Mom, just tell her to Google my name. She can find everything." You
I
know,
know that's
so
right.
she just started laughing. But no, but everything that I've done over the last 10 years, as far as from radio, I had my own radio show live from 2014 to 2017, and I built that listener base to across 7 markets to a 1.2 million 2 million listeners weekly, and everything from that point I've been doing is shifted to TV. So I've had my own TV show right now for probably about 2.5 years, 3 years, and one of the biggest things I pride myself on is that it's coming straight out the gate and owning my content, owning my IP, owning my material. For someone in TV or someone in the entertainment space to come in straight out the gate and owning their stuff, it's a pretty huge feat. So I'm really excited about that. My team, my lawyers, my publicists, we're in the process of negotiating some things right now on a syndicated level. So I'm really excited about that. So that's
Congratulations.
where all thank you. That's where all my energy has been going to right now, as far as with those deals there. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Look at that. We got a man that's just going up and up and up. So look, if you all want to connect with Mr. Aaron Jordan Jr., you can go to his website. It's www.aaron, Aaron Jordan, Jordan Junior, Jr.com. Again, that is aaronjordanjr.com. You can also follow him on Instagram at Mr. underscore no underscore your underscore worth. Again, that's Mr. underscore no underscore your underscore worth. So, Mr. Aaron, I'm going to ask you before we conclude this show tonight, if you would just go ahead and speak life. I'm going to put you onto the screen by yourself as you speak life into the viewers tonight and give them some words of encouragement. Take about 5 minutes to go ahead and do so.
okay, awesome. One thing I always like to every interview that I have or every platform that I'm on, always end the saying or the that that speech or that show with my favorite quote that I've been using for the last 10 years. That's understand and know that your worth is undeniable and your value is priceless. So what if you're asking yourself what does that mean? That means just what it says. Your worth is undeniable and your value is priceless. For the person that's actually sitting here watching this broadcast down, that is questioning their value, questioning their worth, just want you to know that and understand that you are valuable. You're worthy. You have a calling on your life. You have a purpose to fulfill. So when you're in those low moments and you're trying to question your value, you're trying to question your worth, look at yourself in the mirror and say that I am valuable, I am worthy, I am beautiful, as the song say, or I am powerful. I'm a thought leader. I'm a thought provoker. Speaking those positive words into your life will produce better outcomes. It will manifest a better reality for you. So I'm gonna say this one more time. I mean, you guys can use it. You guys, I'm not gonna charge you to use it anyway, too. But understand and know that your work is undeniable and your value is priceless. Dr. Yolanda, I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jordan, again for offering those encouraging words, giving us your quote. You all can use it. He said he's not going to
Yeah, you're not gonna charge for
charge.
it.
It's been a pleasure having you as my guest on my show tonight. I thank you so much for just telling your story, sharing your heart, your knowledge, your wisdom when it comes to relationships and knowing your worth. I look forward to staying connected, and if there's anything that I can do, and also my fiance Pastor Frank Henderson can do for you, just let us know. We can connect that way as well. um,
Okay.
so thanks again so much. For those of you that's just tuning into the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show, you missed a good treat tonight about relationships and knowing your worth. So go back to the beginning, watch the replay, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on YouTube, and you'll get to watch the whole thing. If nobody has told you today or tonight that they love you, just know that I love you, but most of all, God loves you. Tune into the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we have another special guest that's going to come in, and they're going to come in and drop it like it's hot. Until next Thursday, take care and God bless.